break tables, and fashion weapons in front of our staff. The lieutenant on scene rightfully ordered our staff to retreat out of the housing area to safety, as our response team was grossly underprepared, both with a lack of needed equipment and tactical training to handle such a situation. Despite our bringing the potential of just such a thing to administration, locking in and obeying orders is not optional for the inmates, and they are solely to blame for the handling of this situation the way they did, and were charged accordingly. However, after our point was made with the microwave, staff safety should have been prioritized over further denying the inmates this privilege. Despite what has happened and become public common rhetoric, oftentimes the sheriff's office is unfairly blamed for what happens within the jail management division. The officers and deputies that work within the two facilities in the jail management division do not come to work day in and day out to violate any inmate's rights, nor do we murder inmates or advocate for them to harm themselves. We are mothers and fathers, daughters and sons. We come to work every day hoping to come home safe. This has become increasingly more difficult as of late, despite our pleas for change.
So can you tell me more about this whole microwave situation?
Microwave ovens are a privilege that the inmates have. It's not a right through the Commission of Corrections. The situation that came about in this particular housing area was it was discovered by members of our staff that the microwave in this particular housing area was tampered with, and the inmates removed a sheet of metal, a thin sheet of metal from the microwave oven at some point, and we don't know when. And what they did was it became knowledge that they fashioned dangerous contraband out of it, weapons. So rightfully, they lost the microwave privilege within the housing area pending an investigation, and that led to, as time went on, it led to a more and more volatile situation.
When did you have to take the microwave away?
Why or when?
When?
As soon as it was discovered that it was missing and there was potential contraband,
it was a week ago or two?
It was roughly 10 days to 14 days ago.
Okay, so a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, you find out this happened. You say, hey, listen, this is a privilege. We're taking this thing, okay, because you guys can't be trusted, whatever. And they want their microwave back. And did your union or the officers, the COs, take a position of giving the damn microwave back?
Generally, no. We believe that the inmates need to be held accountable. That's priority number one, is our safety. And knowing that there was potentially dangerous contraband within the housing area, that remained our focus. We provided, the administration ordered, and we carried out a thorough search of the housing areas, and we weren't in the housing area. We weren't able to come up with the contraband. Subsequently, when the inmates started to realize that they weren't getting the microwave until we got some results, a small portion of what we believed to have been missing within the housing area was inconspicuously set on an officer's desk. So it gave us reason to believe that that some of the inmates that were currently in the housing area were indeed responsible for the missing contraband. So the problem is that you have as many as 48 inmates in this housing area at any given time. And why it became such a volatile situation, I believe, is that we really didn't have anything to go on as far as knowing that these specific inmates in that housing area were responsible for the contraband going missing to begin with. So a lot of the inmates voiced their frustration that they weren't even part of the missing piece.
You mean this contraband, in layman's term, that's a piece of the microwave, right? The piece of metal?
It was, from what I understand, I didn't actually inspect the microwave personally, but from what I understand, that they were able to manipulate a thin sheet of metal from the microwave unit itself.
So they ain't got their microwave back, they're mad, and it leads to a point last night where they're just saying, give us the microwave?
Well, it didn't directly just all of a sudden fall out of the clear blue sky, and that's what a lot of our issues are with this particular situation, is that many staff members brought it to the attention of supervision and the union, which we carried our concerns over to administration, that this was heading down a dangerous road. The inmates actually, you know, if you want to put it that way, had the courtesy to let us know that if things didn't change here, if they didn't get their microwave back, that there was going to be some sort of action taken. Now, I'm a firm believer that this is our facility, fair, firm, and consistent, and the inmates, the tail shouldn't be wagging the dog here. So we believe wholeheartedly with the administration that the right thing to do was to take the microwave for a period of time. However, as the days carried on, and it became more and more evident that we were not going to retrieve any more of the contraband that went missing, it became risk-reward in our eyes, and that the risk of that it brought to my staff member safety did not outweigh the reward of having these guys go without a microwave any longer.
Say that again, the risk of?
The risk of keeping the microwave away from the inmate population in this housing area was they were basically telling us that there was going to be some potential for a group action. And the only reward on our side for taking the microwave over such a long period of time was to, obviously, to deter them from future instances of, you know, brandishing weapons or whatever, and taking. So the microwave being taken was warranted for sure, and for a duration of a period of time, we were all in agreement with. But as it became more and more of a precarious situation for our staff safety, it wasn't, in our eyes, it wasn't worth withholding the microwave from them any longer. And
so how does it? There might not people understand though. How do your guests take over a housing unit and basically get run of the place?
Well, I'm on my 24th year here, Dave, and it's never happened before. So I would say in this particular instance, the way it transpired was accurately depicted by the Sheriff's Office press release yesterday. What we had was a situation where it became lockdown time after dinner at 17:30 hours, and the inmates had previously indicated that there was going to be a chance that this might happen at some point. They didn't tell us the exact day. So when this did happen, our housing area manager called for a response team and a supervisor to show up on the scene, to which they did. And at that point, a period of negotiations went on. All the inmates kind of gathered together in one half the housing area and barricaded themselves behind the tables and the chairs that were in the microwave. And they began to break the legs off the tables and stuff in open view of our staff, creating weapons, dangerous contraband. And our watch commander on scene made the right call eventually when he decided to pull the troops out into the secure sally port of the area. And at that point in time, we don't have the equipment provided to us to respond to such a situation, nor do we have the tactical training to be able to combat such a situation, which led to a meeting of the minds last night in administration. I think that generally it was handled as well as it could have, considering the lack of training leading up to that point. They brought in the SWAT team from Erie County Sheriff's Road Patrol, and they were on standby if needed. They called in more support from holding center deputies to come out in what we refer to as like a CERT team sort of body armor, which we also provided for a couple dozen of our members. So again, we were prepared to use force if necessary to take back the housing area.
But you didn't have to. So how did this resolve itself? Did these guys just decide, we're tired and we want to go to bed? Or did you give them the microwave back, or what?
No, they definitely did not get the microwave back. The way it went essentially was we basically used a public address system within the facility to tell the inmates, our concern isn't just for our membership, it's also for the inmates in our care. We were ordered to, by the planning of the administration, to relay a message to the inmates over the public address system. The concern being that, it was known that we had a couple inmates who might be diabetics and other medical potential issues, maybe because they missed maybe their med pass for that shift. We were concerned that, we didn't want any inmates to be harmed. So we basically went over the public address system and gave them the opportunity to come forward if they needed medical attention. We reiterated that the plan was to end this peacefully. We were prepared to take back our housing area, but fortunately it didn't have to come to that.
So they just give it up after a while?
Essentially, they gave up after a while. We were able to do our best to keep eyes and ears of the situation. They managed to block most vantage points to be able to see into the housing area by putting up papers and plastic. But we had a good plan to, as far as, adjusting on the fly, to have eyes and ears to get a little bit of intel that the inmates were complying, and that we knew when they were all locked in, we knew that their cell doors were secured based on the fact that our central control system indicates as such.
Why not run in there and rush them?
Well, as a union president and as a 23-year veteran here and one of the lieutenants, our staff safety is our number one priority. It wasn't about using force and taking back. It was about ending this peacefully and without anyone getting injured. So, we knew that we had time on our side as far as being able to wait them out, and there was no tactical advantage, I believe, the administration's viewpoint, to have to go in there and just use brute force. And the reality of it, quite frankly, is we weren't really equipped to handle such a situation.
They weren't hurting each other, right? You saw them fashioning potential weapons, but
the
they
best of our weapons.
Started a gladiator pit or something.
Well,
you would have to go in there.
And that's why it did become an issue of time after a while, because we really had no way of knowing what was going on in there. We don't have the ability to tell once they blocked off our vantage points They tied off the doors, the entryway doors, using sheets to the housing area. So we had no easy way to tell what was going on inside, which is why we were prepared. We were just waiting for the administration to give us the go-ahead to enter and use force if needed. But fortunately, the inmates ended up complying at the 11th hour, literally.
You said some of them were charged accordingly. What is their punishment, if that's the right term, or what does that mean that they were charged?
Well, from what I understand, and again, I don't have firsthand knowledge of that they're being charged criminally, but internally, they're going to be facing all sorts of charges internally for violating our inmate rules and regulations. Again, from a union perspective, a lot of what's led up to this whole situation is largely a lack of accountability for the inmate population. These inmates, we kind of lost our teeth somewhat as far as our staff is concerned. When it comes to these inmates, they violate the rules, and historically, if you violate the rules, you have to go to administrative segregation and oftentimes have to serve a disciplinary sentence in administrative segregation. And through the last year or so, we've really cut back on the amount of time the inmates are getting in keep lock, and to a large extent, the New York State Commission of Corrections has certain mandates that even when they do go, they're allowed way more time out of their cells when they are in keep lock, which leads to less accountability. Like, they're more bold, they're more able, they feel that it's okay to break some of the rules. Like I said, we've lost multiple man-days. I still have officers that are out injured due to inmate on officer assaults. And we've had more in the last year or 18 months than the last 10 years combined.
I mean, forget the term, but somebody listening to this, given what happened last night, and thankfully it ended peacefully and no one was hurt, but they might say, it sounds to me like the inmates are running the asylum here.
We'd like to think that that's never going to be the case and that it's not the case. However, they're certainly more emboldened than they've ever been. There's certainly much more of a lack of respect for us inside the walls as it is for oftentimes a lot of law enforcement officers even on the outside. The whole point here is that we can't allow them to run the asylum, and they're not running the asylum, nor should they. However, my concern is that my members are going to end up getting injured in the prevention of them running the asylum unless we can change our philosophy on how we're running the facility, or maybe change the leadership that is running our facility here in Alden.
Because it also seems to me that to some degree we got lucky last night, and if these guests of yours are getting more emboldened, more disrespectful, they demonstrated last night just what could happen. I would imagine, I'm not sure, that it's limited personnel, maybe one supervising that housing unit, who, if they want to cause trouble in it, their first course is probably tell them knock it off. After that, get myself out of there so I don't get hurt or worse, and wait for the appropriate backup and planning. But I mean, what needs to change so this doesn't happen again?
I think the number one thing that needs to change is we neither have to have the administration, the jail management division to either let us utilize all the tools at our disposal, come up with a more comprehensive plan on how to deal with such a situation if it does arise again. We don't have a lot of the less lethal tools at our disposal that we could use to quell such a situation. Such as batons, such as tasers, such as pepper ball guns, things that are utilized in other facilities nationwide. We don't have those at our disposal, nor do we have a formal tactical plan on how to deal with such a situation as arose last night. So again, we either need to be provided with the tools that will help us deal with the situation if it does arise, or perhaps maybe it's time for an administrative change here at the Erie County Correctional Facility, and put administrators in there that will kind of allow us to take the facility back, in so much as that when it comes to when inmates do get disciplined for breaking the rules, oftentimes they appeal and they get their time reduced and things of that nature. And it's led to the inmates, in their eyes, that they are running the asylum. We'll never wave that white flag. And every day that we come, our members know that when you take a career on such as this, you're putting yourself at, potentially at risk physically and certainly mentally. But it just doesn't have to be this way.
So you believe that less discipline is part of the build-up to the microwave incident that built up to last night?
I think that certainly the lack of accountability when it comes to our internal discipline has led to the inmates not caring as much if they do get keep lock time, because they know that it's either going to be reduced or dismissed outright. And a lot of that is not the fault of our administrators here. To a large extent, the New York State Commission of Corrections is kind of hamstrung us in so much as that even when inmates do go to keep lock, they're allowed, up to 4 or 6 hours out of their cells daily, which isn't enough of a deterrent for them not to act out against each other, against staff, or just break regular facility rules. So that did lead up ultimately to a boiling point, so to speak, when it comes to the inmates feeling that they can pretty much do whatever they need to do, and this was no different. Like had we never let it get to this point to begin with, not just with the microwave, but in our in-house discipline and the regulations through the New York State Commission of Corrections, the inmates, like I said, I've been here since 1998. We've never had a situation like this, and the only thing that has changed is the standard from the Commission of Corrections and the internal disciplinary process at the correctional facility here.
Okay, thank you.
That has been a huge problem through the past months through COVID. It's been a volatile situation within these walls, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that we had a lot of state-ready inmates that are supposed to be living in correctional facilities, in the New York State Department of Corrections, and instead they're here and they're dangerous criminals, and we're not afraid of dangerous criminals. Like, it's about behavior, it's about adhering to the rules that are in place, regardless if you're here for what your charges are.
You're taking them now, right? These incarcerated.
Oh yeah, the log jam, so to speak, is definitely lessened. It's eased up. We're losing a lot of the inmates that are supposed to go upstate are going upstate, and that's certainly helped matters. Less than 3 dozen on standby, ready to go in and take the housing area back over. In addition to the sheriff's department SWAT
Kind of like
team that was on standby.
your own little CERT unit or something like that?
Well, for sure, like we've always implemented a CERT team as needed, but again, like the training is minimal.
Yeah.
So we were kind of just we relied on the holding center to send us reinforcements, and that tactically was another big reason why we didn't consider even going in right away until we had more staff present. On any given shift, we don't have enough to staff the housing areas that are open and have enough additional personnel to be able to facilitate anything like this.
Okay, Mark.
And let me
I
just
think-
double
are
check your
things-
last name because I noticed that I've got to spell two different ways here. It's Priore.
Yes, sir.
Got it. I have it right. My order's done. So
Awesome.
we'll make sure we get it right.
And
Thank
things
you very
are-
much, Mark. Good luck.
Back to normal now, or
I would say that our staff is definitely on edge. I would say that our staff definitely is concerned with their safety more so than ever before. I really think that they're lacking faith in our leadership here at Erie County Correctional Facility to keep us safe. But as of now, all the inmates that were present in that housing area are neither transferred down to the holding center or in special housing here. So the inmates that were responsible directly are no longer in general population.
So some of them were transported to the holding center.
Correct.
It's just for separation, or
It's a pending administrative review.
thank you, sir.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Like it's